This is an alternate story of Bonnie and Clyde, but their first names are Lonnie and Hyde. Lonnie's brother is Huck Faro, and their short sidekick is J.R. Toss, and their other associate is Big Screen Blizzard. Together they form the Faro Gang and rob banks in small towns. The big difference in this version is that it takes place in the years 2020 to 2024, during the Biden administration years. Our group of individuals were running a successful restaurant. J.R. Toss is the busboy, dishwasher, and handles all other menial duties, including some simple maintenance. Hyde is the waitress and cashier. Big Screen Blizzard is the chef cook and really puts out some good grub. High inflation hits their little town of Possum Grape, Arkansas. Their bank invokes a clause in their loan, jumping the interest rate from 7% to 15%. Their landlord increases their lease by 50%. Their insurance goes up by 30%. In the local municipality and school district, property taxes increase by 33%. This combination crushes their dream and hope for future success. All they were doing was working for the landlords, bankers, the insurance agents, and the tax collectors. The solution was simple. They were forced to turn to crime. In their view, the simplest crime was to rob banks in small towns like Possum Grape, sometimes called Possum Holler. The Faro's Diner crew had been successful up to 2020, and along came Biden. Over the years, they had garnered a very broad base of customers. That base of customers were also extremely hurt by Biden's inflation, and most of that base had to cut back on eating out at restaurants, including the diner. This situation drove the Faros and their diner's crew into desperate decisions even more quickly than anyone could anticipate. So all 5 of them made the decision to become a gang and go after the banks. Unfortunately, they could not go after the big boys in Wall Street, but had to pick on vulnerable small-town banks and credit unions.
Title: The Faro Gang Genre Crime, Drama Heist. Logline: in the inflationary chaos of the Biden years 2020 to 2024, a small-town Arkansas restaurant crew led by Lonnie and his partner Hyde. They transform into the Faro Gang, robbing banks to reclaim their shattered dreams only to confront the moral cost of their desperate rebellion against a crushing economic system. Fade in next. A Possum Grape, Arkansas Main Street circa 2023. A dusty small town street, barely alive. A neon sign flickers. Faro's Diner. The camera pans to a quaint diner, its paint peeling, window smudged. A for lease sign looms nearby. Inside, the diner is half empty, a few locals sipping coffee, their faces weary. The jukebox hums a mournful country tune. Lonnie, 30s, rugged, charismatic with a fire in his eyes, stands by the counter wiping it absent-mindedly. Across from him, Hyde, 30s, sharp, alluring with a quiet intensity, balances a tray of coffee mugs, her smile masking frustration. In the kitchen, Big Screen Blizzard, late 40s, burly, apron stained with a knack for cooking. He flips burgers with precision. J.R. Toss, 20s, short, wiry and restless, scrubs dishes with a scowl, muttering to himself. Huck Faro, early 40s, Lonnie's brother, lanky with a schemer's grin, contemplates repairing the 2007 Ford Econovan, his mind elsewhere. Lonnie to Hyde.
Another day, another dollar. We can't keep up with the bank. They're squeezing us dry.
Yeah, and the landlord's got his boot on our neck. 50% rent. Hike, we're slaving for nothing.
Huck overhears, tossing his broom aside. Huck.
And inflation's a thief. Lonnie, Biden's boys, let it run. Wild property taxes up 33%, insurance jacked 30, our loans at 15, now we're drowning.
J.R. pokes his head out from the dish pit. J.R. Toss.
I'm scrubbing pots for bankers and taxmen ain't right.
Big Screen slams a spatula down, joining them. Big Screen.
I didn't spend years perfecting my brisket to feed Wall Street's greed. We built this place. Our blood, our sweat.
Hyde sets the tray down. Her eyes, narrowing.
They're stealing our dream. We gotta take it back.
Lonnie meets her gaze, a spark igniting. Lonnie?
How are we keeping the lights on, Huck?
Huck grins, leaning in conspiratorially. Huck,
It's simple. We hit the banks, not the big ones. Small fry like in possum, hollow, or cotton plant. They're vulnerable. We take what's ours.
JR chuckles, nervously wiping his hands.
Rob banks, y'all serious?
Big screen deadpan.
Dead serious, Shorty. They're robbing us every day. Turnabout's fair play.
Hyde notes, her resolve hardening. We're the Pharaoh gang. Now, let's make them pay. Montage, the Pharaoh gang rises.
Interior of diner. Night. The crew plans their first heist, maps and bank layouts spread across a table. Huck marks small town targets. JR practices cracking a safe with a YouTube tutorial. Big screen sharpens knives just in case. Exterior of Possum Hollow Bank. Day. The gang, masked in bandanas, storms a tiny bank. Lonnie brandishes a shotgun. Hyde charms the teller into compliance. JR grabs cash. Blizzard keeps watch. They're in and out in 5 minutes. Interior of diner. Night. Stacks of cash pile up. The gang celebrates with beers, but Lonnie's eyes are troubled. Exterior of Cotton Plant Credit Union. Day. Another heist, smoother. JR's faster with the safe. Hyde disarms a guard with a smile. Huck hacks the security cameras. They escape in their van. Interior of diner. Day. Customers dwindle. A sign reads, "Closed early." The gang counts money, but the mood is tense. Inflation's still eating their profits. Interior of Pharaoh's diner. Night. The gang sits around a table, cash stacked high but faces grim. A news report plays on a small TV. Pharaoh gang strikes again. Lonnie.
We're winning, but I don't feel like it. These small banks ain't the problem. It's the big boys, Wall Street, the feds.
Hyde.
We can't touch him, Lonnie. We hit one more, pay off the loan, save the diner. Then we stop.
Huck.
One last score, big one. The credit union in Bald Knob. They're holding payroll cash for half the county.
JR fidgets uneasy. JR toss.
Cops are sniffing, y'all. We're pushing our luck.
Luck's all we got left. JR, you in or out?
JR sighs, nodding reluctantly. Exterior of Bald Knob Credit Union. Day, the gang pulls up in their van, now sporting fake plates. They move like pros, masks on, guns ready. Interior of Credit Union. Lonnie barks orders, keeping panicked customers in line. Hyde sweet-talks the manager into opening the vault. Huck disables alarms. JR stuffs bags with cash. Blizzard guards the door. But sirens wail outside. Police cars screech to a halt. Hyde. Psst.
Huck, you said no cops.
Huck.
They weren't supposed to be here.
We're not dying today. Move.
They grab what they can and bolt for the back exit. Exterior of Credit Union, back alley. Chaotic chase. The gang piles into the van, tires screeching. Cops pursue, lights flashing. Bullets ping off the van. JR screams, clutching a grazing wound. Lonnie drives like a maniac, Hyde navigating with a map app. Huck patches JR's wound. Blizzard loads a rifle, grim, big screen.
Luck's all we got left. JR, you in or out?
Hyde, soft to Lonnie.
Was it worth it? For the diner?
Lonnie's hands tighten on the wheel, his jaw set. Lonnie. The van roars down a back road, cops closing in. A bridge looms ahead. Narrow, old. Lonnie floors it. Lonnie.
Hold on.
The van barrels across, but the bridge groans, cracking. The cops stop short as the bridge collapses behind the van.
Stay tuned to The Undertaker Navigator for Chapter 3 of Lonnie and Hyde.
Just a little review to pick up the storyline. The Pharaoh Gang, a modern Bonnie and Clyde tale in the small town of Possum Grape, Arkansas, sometimes whispered as Possum Holler. The Pharaoh's Diner was a beacon of comfort food and community spirit until the economic storms of 2020 to 2024 hit. Lonnie Farrow, the charismatic leader, ran the diner with his sharp-witted girlfriend, Hyde. Lonnie's brother, Huck Farrow, managed the books with a keen eye. Their short-statured, scrappy busboy, J.R. Toss, handled everything from dishwashing to fixing leaky faucets. Big Screen Blizzard, the hulking chef, turned out plates of fried catfish and peach cobbler that kept folks coming back. But by 2020, the Biden administration's economic policies, fair or not, became the gang's scapegoat for their crumbling dreams. After the close encounter with the law, the Farrow gang wisely decided to lay low for about 4 months. They repainted their van a light gray and had a local possum grape mechanic really soup up the van. Big Screen Blizzard would take over the driving. Big Screen promptly renamed the van as the Griddle. Once again, money became very tight, and now the cost of food was almost making it impossible to keep the diner open so that their prices would be reasonable for the townfolk. Everyone was feeling the Biden inflation and the reckless spending of the Democrats in Washington. This further convinced the gang that their actions were just and nobody had gotten hurt, including the banks, because they had insurance that covered their losses. They also decided to make a strategic move and spread out into southern Missouri and eastern Oklahoma and stop hitting small towns close to Possum Grape. Let's review everybody's roles as this tale continues. Lonnie Farrow, the mastermind, charming and bold with a knack for casing banks. He'd walk in, flash a smile, and scope out cameras and exits while posing as a customer. Hyde, the face of the operation, using her waitress charm to distract tellers and sweet-talk locals for intel. She'd slip out with deposit schedules tucked in her apron. Huck Farrow, the strategist, crunching numbers and planning escape routes. His knowledge of backroads around Possum Grape kept them one step ahead of sheriffs. J.R. Toss, the utility man, small enough to crawl through air ducts or disable alarms. His maintenance skills came in handy for cutting power or picking locks. Big Screen Blizzard, the muscle and now getaway driver, his massive frame intimidating tellers into compliance. His souped-up van, now nicknamed the Griddle, was their escape vehicle. During the new heists from 2023 into 2024, the Farrow gang hit a string of small banks across Missouri. Oklahoma even ventured into southern Illinois, hitting Elizabethtown on the Ohio River, Anna, a town with a dark reputation, then Cave-in Rock, also on the Ohio River. Their MO remained the same: keep it simple, strike fast, keep it clean, and vanish into the Arkansas Ozark Hills. Hyde would flirt with a bank manager to get safe codes, Lonnie would signal the crew, JR would disable security, and Blizzard would loom large with a sawed-off shotgun, unloaded. They weren't killers. Huck planned every detail, from timing to alibis. They'd hit banks in some bigger towns, but still smaller institutions in towns like Poplar Bluff, Dexter, and Sixton before venturing into Illinois. They were grabbing just enough cash to keep the diner afloat and their crew fed, never enough to draw federal heat. Their biggest score was the First Farmers Credit Union in Anna, Illinois, netting $42,000 in 2023. But their luck ran thin by 2024 when they went against their new plan when a teller in Beebe, Arkansas, recognized Hyde from her diner days, and a silent alarm tricked during a job in Judsonia. They should have stayed out of state, but they got complacent and lazy, not wanting to drive the extra miles into the bordering states. The gang barely escaped a state trooper roadblock, thanks to Huck's backroad savvy and Blizzard's lead foot. The downfall came by late 2024. The FBI was closing in. The gang's small-time heists had added up, and their faces were on grainy security footage across 3 states. Possum Grape's locals, once loyal diner patrons, started whispering about the crew's late-night absences. The final blow came in JR, drunk on moonshine, bragged about easy money at a local bar. A tipster called the feds. On a foggy November morning, as the gang prepped for one last job to save the diner, SWAT team swarmed Possum Grape. Lonnie and Hyde surrendered peacefully, hoping to cut a deal. Uck tried to bolt, but was tackled in a cornfield. JR hid in a dumpster but was sniffed out by a canine unit. Blizzard, true to form, barreled through a roadblock in the griddle before crashing into a ditch. Epilogue: the Pharaoh Gang's tale became a legend in Possum Grape, a cautionary story of desperation in hard times. The diner shuttered, its neon sign flickering out. Lonnie and Hyde got 7 years each for robbery. Huck, 5 for conspiracy. JR, 3 for his lesser role. Blizzard, charged with assault for the roadblock stunt, got 10. Some locals still blame Biden's inflation. Others say the gang's greed got the better of them. Either way, the Pharaoh's Diner crew learned the hard way. Robbing banks might feel like justice, but it's a lousy retirement plan.
Hello, I'm the character known as Huck Farrow in our little Instadoodle parody of Bonnie and Clyde. I've been cloned to give this epilogue, so here it is. I think some of my viewers may think that I ended my little whimsical parody of Bonnie and Clyde on a somewhat sour note. That one image at the very end may negate a parent recommending their child watch the video for the lighthearted nature of my representation. The actual Bonnie and Clyde movie told a violent story highlighted by the slow-motion, brutal ending to Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker. Obviously, I've avoided any real violence, with maybe the ending blockade running by big screen. That could qualify for a violent act, but avoided documenting any injuries or deaths. Extra punishment was given to big screen, reflected in the prison sentence he received. My characters were also punished for their crimes. I feel justified by including that somewhat obscene concluding slide image. The hypocrisy that we have in our society is off the scale with the horrendous theft of our tax dollars by people who had sworn an oath to the Constitution to do nothing like what they've actually done. They've literally wasted and stolen billions of taxpayer dollars, if not trillions. Watergate was bad, but pales in comparison with the evil that has occurred during the 4 years of the Democrats being in control, with Biden's name attached to it. Who has ever gotten away with more awfulness than the two H's, Hillary and Hunter? Watergate is considered our big political scandal that resulted in the president resigning the office, but as previously stated, it pales in comparison to what has been uncovered in the Biden administration as far as corruption, deception, incompetence, and but just plain evil. Our national debt threatens every person who has worked in their life to save for retirement, to save for their kids' college education, to save for a variety of reasons. The last time the U.S. national debt stood at just $1 trillion was in 1981. Specifically, the national debt crossed the $1 trillion mark on October 23, 1981. The debt was $260 billion in 1950, and $1 in 1950 had the equivalent purchasing power of $13.34 in today's dollars. Here's one example, but a good one. Gallon of gas in 1950 was 27C. Multiply that by 1334, and you get 360, with 316 our current national average. So that tells me the oil and gas industry is performing much better than our politicians. Therefore, in today's dollars, the 1950 debt was equivalent to 1334, 260 billion. That equals 3.4684 trillion for a fair comparison. How wonderful. Our politicians have managed to only 10x our national debt in 75 years. We are 10 times more likely to be destroyed by today's insane, reckless spending than in 1950. The Republicans are not solving this problem. They may be delaying the devastating outcome by a few years at best. Elon may be right in the establishment of a strong replacement party for the pitiful idiots that have been in charge over these past 75 years, or basically my lifetime. Personally, I believe in God, family, and the individual being responsible for his or herself. I know organizations, corporations, and all other institutions are what I consider a necessary evil, but they rarely act for the common good. That's why they're called special interests. Group identity and the need to be part of a group are for those people who are a bunch of sheep that would follow an idiot off a cliff. Unfortunately, the jury is still out contemplating the fate of America. Individualism founded this country, created each of our wonderful, unique states, got us through the Civil War and abolished slavery, the Depression, allowed us to contribute significantly to the outcomes of 2 world wars and create the greatest economy and most prosperity ever known to mankind. I live better than any king or emperor that ever ruled. Billionaires in America are individuals who have had exceptional talent for solving problems and/or fulfilling the needs and wants of the majority of their fellow citizens. We will have been around for 250 years officially, July 4th, 2026. But we're not close to the length of other civilizations that have come and gone in China, in Central America, in the Andes, in the Indus Valley in India, on the plains of Mongolia, and they all lasted a hell a lot longer than we've been around. That's my point. Let's don't get complacent, because what I learned in aviation by flying over 3,000 hours, complacency kills very efficiently when a C-141 Starlifter plows into an Andes mountainside in South America at over 550 miles an hour. Complacency will devour us like a famine that starves its victims with a slow, painful death. In a plane crash like described above, there are no survivors, but I think I'd rather go that way than be starved to death by a vicious dictator like Joseph Stalin, who is responsible for at least 7 million Ukrainians' deaths in the 1930s from starvation. That's approximately 1 million more than the Holocaust. Therefore, I will not apologize for taking one additional opportunity to bash the Democratic Party and some Republicans for their efforts to destroy our freedoms to act and think as individuals. I know it's trite to bring this up, but it is so true. Margaret Thatcher said it best. Socialism only works until it runs out of other people's money created by individuals.